and welcome back. As I promised, that is what was happening. And on today on Eye on Politics, we just want to, talk about matters that affect us as Kenyans. And I'm glad to be joined by Reverend Archbishop Jackson Oloo Sapit. We all know what happened yesterday. Perhaps if my director can play for you that story, if you have it, director, yesterday in Butere. Okay, we'll get that story briefly. But then, Reverend, if you can hear me, good morning. Welcome to the program. Reverend, if you can hear me, good morning.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Good morning.
Welcome to the program, Archbishop. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, first we have to congratulate Bishop Ross, who was yesterday ordained as the Bishop of Butere Archdiocese. This is a milestone as a church.
Indeed, it is a milestone. She is the first Anglican woman bishop to be elected as a bishop. But we did consecrate one in the month of March, who was appointed as an assistant bishop. But this is the first to win an election, and she became the first woman assistant bishop in Butere. That's right.
Right. What does it really mean to the church?
What basically it means to the church is that, mission is progressing, and we are making milestones as the Anglican Church of Kenya, in the sense that, 2 decades ago, we accepted ordination of women into deaconhood and also into priesthood. In the Anglican Church, we have 3 orders of what we call holy ministry orders of deacons, priests, and bishops. And for a long time, they remained in the 2 areas of deacons and priests, but have never ascended to the office of a bishop. And the whole world, we have come to discover that women are equally gifted as men in every other area, and even in the area of ministry. So this is a milestone and a statement by the Anglican Church of Kenya that all of us are equal before Christ and we can serve him irrespective of our gender, our age, so long as we have sufficient faith and also that training and live the life that depict that of a follower of Jesus Christ. So ministry is not for male only. Ministry is also for women, and we really want to thank God for.
Absolutely. And perhaps if you could just get to listen or to that story which was done yesterday, Director, perhaps you can get the side and the sound bites from Butere yesterday.
This diocese, church ceremonies have often provided a ready crowd for politicians in the country, and as the electioneering season approaches, this has been a low-hanging fruit easily picked by politicians for political reasons. This, however, may not be the case anymore, at least in the African Church, where the Archbishop Dr. Jackson Oloo Sapit banned politics in their pulpits.
But let me say this: the Anglican Church of Kenya is a no-go zone for political rhetoric.
And as such, politicians will only attend the church as any other congregants and have been barred from the use of service for political expediency.
And that's what we are going to do as the Anglican Church of Kenya.
I, Ross Nerea Ayemba Okeno,
Oloo Sapit spoke as he oversaw the installation of Rose Okeno as the Bishop of the Butere Diocese. She becomes the first female bishop in the Anglican Church in Kenya. The auspicious occasion was attended by ODM leader Raila Odinga, Amani Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, CS Eugene Wamalwa, and Kotu Secretary General Francis Atwoli, among others, none of whom was allowed to address the congregants. This did not go down well with some of them, with Mudavadi and Wetangula storming out of the ceremony shortly after.
Hiyo ni kukosa heshima kwa kanisa, ni kukosa heshima kwa bishop wetu mpya.
Some politicians have converted the church pulpit to be dias for politics and for illicit money. So I want to thank my bishop, my Archbishop, for giving that direction.
Tukaomba msamaha kwa Askofu Sapit kwamba kwa sababu tuna safari ya kwenda hadi Murang'a na tumesikiza hotuba ya askofu mpya, aturuhusu tuondoke kwa sababu kutoka kule Ingo mpaka hapa ni safari ndefu.
Well, Sapit has also in the past banned the announcement of offerings contributed by politicians while attending church services.
All right. So that is what happened yesterday in Butere during the function at the Butere Archdiocese, where Rose, that is Bishop Rose Okeno, was now taken to the mantle as the head of that archdiocese, as the first woman of the ACK Church in Butere Archdiocese. And a lot happened politically, speaking. And that is the point where the Archbishop of Anglican Church of Kenya, Reverend Jackson Ole Sapit, banned politics on the pulpit. And that is where some of the politicians walked out, but they later said that they sought for permission from the Archbishop himself. And that is the particular point. Now we are having this kind of conversation just to understand where politics and church is concerned, where politicians have been taking to the pulpit every Saturday, every Sunday to do politics. But now the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church of Kenya have now said it's not going to be business as usual in churches. That is what's happening, and just a matter of wait and see whether the politicians will heed to this kind of call from the church leaders and just go there, just like any other congregant, have the spiritual nourishment and walk out. Remember, the church leaders said that politicians are allowed and they're welcome to churches, but anytime they want to make talk to the press, they can do it somewhere else. That is according to the Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit. We are going to get to him briefly once we have that. All right, I'm told that he's ready. Perhaps now we can just go to him and have this conversation. Reverend,
Yes, are you hearing me properly?
Oh yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much. Now, let's just get to the point straightforward. Yesterday, chances are you rubbed the raw nerves, politically speaking. Do you think that is the case, Reverend?
I assume that is the case, but it was intentional. And I did not imagine to say that just when I was in that service. I went purposely to Butere knowing that I'm not going to allow politicians to speak in that occasion. And not only in that occasion, but also in all other occasions where I personally will be present. But I've also urged my bishop to follow suit in their dioceses. And we are going to do that to all our clergy. And the reason is this. We have seen in the past that politicians come to church, and when they are handed over the microphone, what they will speak actually is not for spiritual nourishment. It is not a testimony they are coming to give. It is a political statement they are going to make, and always a political statement that hit on their opponents. And the media, you have not helped us on this, because even when that politician is given the mic, what is aired on TV or what is recorded in print media is not the sermon that happened in that church. It's not the worship, it's not the prayer that is said in that church, but it is what the politician said. And therefore, the interpretation of a viewer or somebody reading of the happenings of the church that day, we all get confused whether worship happened or it was politics spoken in the church and nothing else. And therefore, I said we have to put a stop in this by making the church a place of spiritual nourishment, that all of us are welcome to come. And the sole purpose of our gathering in churches on Sundays and any other worship day is to worship God, to praise Him, to honor Him, but to bring our supplication and our prayers to Him as we read His word, which is listening to His voice. And therefore, that is the sole purpose of church. And therefore, we must separate the purpose of the church and use of church for other purposes. And that's what I wanted to correct, that the church worship is for worship, and we are not going to allow it to be used for other purposes, which is not propagation and proclamation of the word of God. And therefore, I said, when we are in that worship hour or anything to do with church, it is a sacred place, a place of ministry. Let the ministry of the word be the one that is at the center, not any other statement that is going to be made. And I said, it is not enough for me to continue saying, let politicians not speak in church, but we must make that bold step by saying, yes, you are present today, but you are not going to speak. And I kept my word. I never gave a single one of them a chance to speak. They went to speak outside of the church, of course, but that was expected. And I said also, the church is for all of us to come and worship, but we must segregate the positions of the church, that the pews, or where everybody sits, everybody is welcome. Politicians are welcome. Anybody who even call themselves or consider themselves a sinner are all welcome, because that's a place of healing. But where the clergy and where the bishops sit is where ministry happens, and it is designated for those who are offering ministry. It is a place where the praise and worship team will do their work, the readers of the word, the expounders of the word in preaching, the teachers of the word will do that, and prayers are offered at that point. So if we mix that area with to become an area for political statements, then we have missed out what church is all about. And therefore I said, let us not confuse worship day in the church and a political rally. Let them make their statements in political rallies. I don't mind if they make them to the same congregants, but outside of the church, and outside of the church gate, I have no problem in that. But in the church, let the word be the one that takes center stage in the church.
All right. Reverend, let me ask you this. You said that you are going to Butere yesterday was intentional, and what you did was intentional. Please expound on that.
I said, I decided, not just yesterday, but when I've been seeing this every day, that, when we are in church and are gathered in church, the moment the politician is given the mic, that is when every reporter becomes active, and they will come now with their cameras, and they will now take the political statement and my photo at the background. And sometimes I will be seen to be nodding because the politicians will come to me asking for my affirmation of what they are saying. And every little moment I nod, it becomes, I'm affirming what they are saying. So at the end of the day, it is not what was preached that was heard that day. It is not a prayer said in that church, but it is a political statement made by the politician. And I said it has to change, and it has to begin to have a beginning point. And I said yesterday is going to be my beginning point. And I even said this Sunday I'll be consecrating another bishop at All Saints Cathedral. It will be the same. I'm going to Meru the following Sunday to consecrate a new bishop in Meru. It will be the same. I'm going to Marlal on the 3rd of October to consecrate another bishop. It will be the same. I'm going to Malindi. It will be the same. Not only when I have consecration, but even when we have normal services. And let me also add this, which I did not say yesterday. We are also beginning to see a movement of a group of people normally called grassroots leaders and religious leaders trooping to politicians' homes. I want to urge, and I also want to give direction to my church, the Anglican Church of Kenya, that our bishops and our clergy should not be part of the so-called grassroots and religious leaders who troop to homes of politicians to be given political direction, because that is not our work. Our work should be to be in the churches, doing evangelism. At this time of COVID, we want to open up churches as places for vaccination. Our clergy and myself should be mobilizing as many people to come to our churches as centers of vaccination, because we are about saving lives, not gather people to contract more of COVID. We want to see ourselves actually using the models we have in the church, like church and community mobilization, where people are brought to have a discussion about their plight, their conversation about their well-being, and to develop a culture of owning themselves and an agenda of self-development, which is free from handouts, because we can never be rich through handouts. We can only be rich through hard work. And the government put policies to level the ground that all has access to opportunities and markets for their crops and have opportunity to grow. Therefore, I want to put our church on notice that our work as clergy, our work as bishops, is not actually to troop to where we shall be given political directions, but we should remain becoming salt and light of the world, giving the right statements.
Absolutely. Reverend, this is not the first time that we are hearing this kind of a ban. It happened in 2019. There was a declaration which was made, but still, even on that, we've seen politicians still getting their way into the pulpit and taking advantage of that situation. Does it worry you?
It does worry me, and I said yesterday, I have to begin it myself by having the politicians who are there barred from speaking, irrespective of the political persuasion and where they stand. So we must have a beginning point. And what I want to say is, let us be practical about what we say. And yesterday I just became practical of what I say, and I've said earlier. But let me also say this. I'm not expecting that 100% uptake by all churches will happen tomorrow. But we are beginning a conversation through the Christian fraternity to be able to identify what is the sole purpose of the church. It is for worship, it's not for political statements.
Yes.
And what we are saying is that what we give is direction. As a church leader, who I am, my role is to give leadership, to provide direction. Whether people pick it immediately or it will take time for them to pick it, but I have already given direction. I follow what the prophets did. In the book of Ezekiel, Prophet Ezekiel was called the watchman. And he was told, as a watchman, when you see alarm, a danger, and you don't sound the alarm and people perish, their blood will be upon you. But if you sound their alarm and the people still don't follow you and they perish, their blood will be on their own heads. But if they heed the call and are saved, then the prophet will have saved his people. And therefore, what I'm saying is that I am making this as a leader providing leadership, a leader giving direction. Whoever picks the direction, and Kenya picks the direction, we will save this country. If we don't pick it and we choose other way, and we know it is going to a self-destruction path and journey, and people are destroyed, they will not say, and Kenyans will not say, there was no prophet at our time who is able to warn when there was looming danger.
Yes. Reverend, the question that allow me to ask is that most of the church leaders across the country perhaps are under pressure to allow some politicians into the pulpits because of the handouts. What do you make of that?
I said it can be true. It can be a culture we have developed as a nation. And let me begin by, a general concept that has evolved with us as Kenyans. The Harambee spirit. The Harambee spirit that was started back in the 70s was a very good spirit, that we pull our resources together and we have used it to educate people, children from poor families. We have used it to build hospitals. We have used it to pay hospital bills. And we have also used it actually to build churches. And this is the entry point actually of this culture of handouts, that because I organized an Harambee, because we had this evolving Kenyan spirit of pulling resources together, then they come now and demand opportunity, or are given. Actually, I think it is us who must take responsibility. It is us who began by giving the responsibility as a guest of honor, who is called a guest of honor, is given the honor to speak in the church. And therefore, it is now turned into no longer the Harambee spirit of just helping, but it has become a way of entrenching an ideology into the church, and now the handouts are used as an opportunity to earn the right to speak. and an opportunity also to demand the right to speak, because I'm bringing resources. And slowly by slowly, what we are realizing is that the church is taken captive. And this captivity is what I want to free the church out of, so that the church is not under captive. We can speak our mind, whether people give or not. And that's why where I began in 2019 is, let us even not announce what you bring to church, because it is biblical that don't come to the house of the Lord empty. But it is biblical also that we should not come announcing and proclaiming how much we have given, because that's where we now attach the worth of person, and the value of that person is the money they bring. And we give that person more premium and more value, and a right to be the one controlling the church, and to be calling the shots, and to be giving direction. And we lose direction from the Bible and begin to take direction from this giver. Because of the announcement of how much they are bringing to church. And I'm saying we must put an end to this. And I've begun, the other Sunday I had a Thanksgiving in the cathedral. We all brought our gifts, and I said to everybody, we are not going to announce any givers' money, even my own. Nobody announces, and we only put them in the basket. And I think that I want to become the culture of the Anglican Church of Kenya, that we give from the heart, not for self-display.
Okay. Reverend, you said that the church has been held captive by the politicians, but then now, does it make politicians, because they get ready audience?
You are very right, actually. Now, especially when 2022 is looming, and COVID-19 has even made it more worse for the church, because there are guidelines and the protocols of COVID-19, and the president has banned gatherings in public places, and the only safe place now for politicians to come is to the church, because people are already gathered. And they don't pay them to gather, because I presume when they gather in their political rallies, people are ferried, people are given maybe transport back home. So it is an added cost to them, and people are sometimes also fed, which is an added cost, and sometimes a little handout to take home. But in the church, it is a free ground where people come, and you don't expect to have gathered that crowd. So it's going to be more vicious. I know they want to take that ground by force, and we have seen it on TV. Actually, I saw a politician say, the government cannot touch us going to churches, or nobody can buy us. That is a no-go zone for us. We own it. It is our place. It is our space. Yes, I say it is your space to come and worship, but not to come and make your political statement. And that is a statement we are making. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I want to see other church leaders follow suit. I really thank Archbishop Buheri of the Catholic Archdiocese of Nyeri. He followed suit yesterday and said, he also affirmed what I said, and he's saying, all the churches in Archdiocese will not be giving politicians an opportunity. So you can imagine, Victor, if all church leaders, beginning with the Anglican Church, my bishops and my clergy, we all put a caveat to this and a stop to this, and every other denomination does it, how will Kenya look like? I think it shall be in a better place, and I think we shall be having better quality worship time, which is not interrupted by political statements, but is only time dedicated between ourselves and our God.
Reverend, allow me to ask this question. We saw yesterday, even the Catholic Archdiocese of Nyeri also said that they are going to put brakes on politicians, trooping to the pulpit. Are you in talks with other interfaith religious leaders to just have kind of a unison, kind of a conversation amongst the religious leaders across the country?
Yes, this is a conversation. We have begun in small numbers. I cannot say everybody's on board yet, but we hope that everybody is going to be on board. we have Christian family groupings. We have KCCB, which is the Fraternity of the Catholic Church. We have NCCK that brings mainline Protestant churches together. We have the Evangelical Alliance that brings most Pentecostal churches together. But we also have the Dialogue Reference Group, which is a senior Christian leaders and also Muslims and Hindus, brings us together through the DRG. We have the Interfaith Council, and you have seen them, give protocols during the whole period of COVID-19 on how to manage churches and mosques, and it has worked out very well because the church is in the forefront deciding what is best for the church. And I think this is a conversation that is ongoing. We may not be 100% yet there, but I think going forward, if our voices continue to be projected more and more of the Christian family, and I know other faiths will join us, will be able to be in agreement that this is the bare minimum where the church can open up her spaces, and not the space of worship, but her spaces of the pulpit ministry and the teaching ministry. How much are we opening up, and to who is it going to be opened up? And I think we need to only open up to those who have been called to teach, those who have been called to minister in worship and song, so that the gospel artists and the choirs are given that space in front of the church to worship God and lead worship. Those who are going to give testimonies, anybody from the pews who felt touched and Jesus Christ has changed their lives, they give a spiritual nourishing testimony.
Right.
But it's not a space for political statements and other statements.
Reverend, allow me to paraphrase a statement you said yesterday, that anytime politicians go to the pulpit, we as the media, we give them the limelight. We air their stories, but we don't air the sermons in churches. That question and that statement, perhaps, let me just put it this way. Do you think you really touched raw nerves between the church and the politicians?
I think I did. I put this thing as raw as it is when we can be able to get sense out of it. But the moment we shy away and we try to, sugarcoat it like the way we do the mouth, not get it right. So unless we open it and get the bitter bit and the raw bit, is when we can be able. And I want to say, if the media can partner with us, so that you are not only trailing your cameras on the politicians when they stand, but you follow through. And I want to really thank ABC, because we have been airing all our services at All Saints Cathedral at 11, and we have given us that space, including the sermon and the whole worship hour. And we really want to thank God. If that is what happens on every other Sunday when a politician comes, it is the sermon that takes center stage. It is the worship that takes center stage, and maybe even if now for you to make news, you can put a smaller statement. Let that statement be a diminished statement, not a major statement. But when you make it the major thing that happened in that church, people are confused. Do we worship there? Were there Christians who are worshiping, or it was a political rally addressed by politicians? Because we see when they come, it is not one of them who is going to address. Even if you give one the mic, they will call each other until the whole line is over. And we miss it. And we waste the time of worshippers, because they are coming to be entertained with things that they did not come for. They came to worship and to listen to God's word. Now they are listening to the politician and the political statements, not God's word. So who are we actually, whose time are we wasted?
Absolutely. Good question there about. We've just had a conversation with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission chairman, that is Reverend Kobia, and he said that the NCIC is also on the front line to bring cohesion even as we move towards the next general election. Reverend, what is the role of the church during this electioneering period, so that as a local Kenyan out there will have to understand and differentiate between church and politics?
I think the church has a big role to play. One, we have the sole mandate to preach the gospel of peace. because that is the basis of our gospel. Jesus Christ is named as a Prince of Peace. So we cannot compromise on anything that disrupts peace. And I've been asking people, we had the locust disruption, we have COVID-19 disruption. Are we ready for a political disruption in 2022? And many people say no. So how do we then stop that disruption? It is by making sure that we preach the gospel of peace. The Bible in Matthew chapter 5 tells us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. So God embraces. Jesus Christ was born and prophesied by David as the Prince of Peace, who is coming to stabilize the world and give it peace. But above that, we are also carriers of the message of the gospel of love. For God so loved the world that he brought his own son to die on the cross for us, so that whoever believes in him will not die but have eternal life. So how do we inculcate this message of love? And Jesus had many stories. One of the stories he talked about love is the story of the Good Samaritan, of this guy who was hit by robbers and was left to die. And the Samaritan came to his rescue, against all odds, because they are supposedly called the enemies of the Jews. But there was, prior to that, a priest who is supposed to be a lifesaver, the teacher of the law, who is supposed now to be the one guiding this person to a better place, and they bypassed him. But this stranger, supposedly to be an enemy of the Jews, is the one who came to embrace and tended the wounds and take this person to an inn and even paid with his own money. And just ask simply, who is your neighbor? Is it a person you speak the same language? And the question is no. It's the person who helped me in my point of need. And this is a question we must ask Kenyans. Who is your neighbor? Is it your immediate family? Yeah. Is it the person you speak the same language with? Is it the person who live next door to you, who may not even speak your language? So who is your neighbor? And I presume it is any one of us who is a neighbor of the other. If we are able to keep our neighbor and become our neighbor's keepers and ensure that they have peace, we shall all be peaceful. And, my peace become your peace and your peace become my peace. And if we are peaceable, then we shall be inheriting what Jesus blessed us with. He said, peace is what I leave you with. And he said, it is a peace that the world does not give, but my peace. Yeah. So if we can be able to be propagators of the peace of Christ, our Prince of Peace, then Kenya will have an opportunity. And I think the church has that role. And my prayer is that all churches will embrace, take it upon ourselves as part of civic education before 2022. We preach the messages of peace and the gospel of peace to all. And then we team up with all agencies that are putting effort to bring a harmonious society, because it is only when Kenya is at peace with herself and when we are all living in harmony is when we can experience prosperity and the development of our nation.
Okay, Reverend, from what happened yesterday, we saw some of the politicians walk out of that function. For the sake of clarity, some of the politicians said that they sought permission from you, permission to exit. Would you kindly clarify whether they sought permission from you or they walked out in protest?
Let me put a record straight about yesterday. All manner of news has come up that, I was barring maybe Mudavadi, or I was barring Honorable Braida from speaking in the pulpit. My target was not whoever was there yesterday. It is all politicians across board. And I said, they'll be coming and it will be the same for all of them. However, yesterday, it is true, when Musalia was about to leave, he sent word to me that I'll be leaving because I have another function in Murang'a. So when you see me walk, I'm not walking out in protest. It is because I am attending another function in Murang'a. That is why I will be leaving a little earlier. So indeed, true, that communication was given to me, and I took it that way, and I don't take offense. So I want you to spare Honorable Musalia from whatever blame game that is being said that it was in protest. I don't know his heart, but all what I know, and it's very clear in me, and I made it clear to them, is that none of you is going to speak in this function. I even urge the media which was present there, who are already trailing their cameras on their side, that you are wasting your time to take your cameras there because none of them is going to say anything. And therefore, if you have to wait for them to say something, go outside of where we are having worship, wait for them wherever they will be coming through, and that will be the way to go. So, yes, indeed true, Musalia did ask to leave early, and the communication was given to me, and I agreed, and that was what happened yesterday.
Thank you for that clarification, Reverend. Now, let's just talk about, let's leave about that issue aside. The issue of vaccination is happening, Reverend, and perhaps how is the church now taking care of the vaccination drive? You know, we've had this hullabaloo about the vaccine is not working, this is not, this and that. What is your take on the vaccination as Anglican Church of Kenya, Reverend?
My take of the vaccination is that the vaccination is a worldwide exercise. And I don't think nations of the world are careless enough to bring something that is harmful to their population to vaccinate. Vaccination has also proved to a large extent that it has become a remedy to the effects of COVID-19. I'm speaking to friends in America and other places. Some of their states are now opened up and they're dropping the mask because 95% or 98% of their population is vaccinated, and therefore the risk of transmission of HIV and COVID-19 and therefore, as a church, I want to urge Kenyans to have an uptake of the vaccine. I am vaccinated myself fully. I got COVID-19 in the month of April around Easter with my family. 5 of us in the family got it. The Lord saw us through. We were not hospitalized. We did not go to hospital, but we fought it at home. And after that, we went for the vaccines. And what I can urge Kenyans is that let us do the uptake. We are also mobilizing the Anglican churches to become centers of vaccination, working alongside the Ministry of Health, so that, as we gather people, they can also be vaccinated. And as we speak, All Saints Cathedral Church here in Nairobi, every Monday and Tuesday is a vaccination center. And there is a single day we vaccinated over 1,000 people in one single day. And we will continue to do that. And because I put the advert of me being vaccinated in my WhatsApp status, and I encourage people to come, and we are seeing an uptick. And I want us to do that. The Anglican Church has infrastructure across the country. We have local churches in every center. We have local churches in every county. If we make them available as vaccination centers, so long as the Ministry of Health is doing it so that they ensure the temperatures are right, the cooling system is right, and the carrying of the vaccine is right, I want to urge Kenyans to have an uptake of the vaccines, because our economy will come to normalcy, and normal life will come back. When we vaccinate about 80 to 90% of the population, we will see the difference, and we can be able to do business as we are used to.
Archbishop, in 1 minute as we come to a close, what is your message to Kenyans even as we approach, this electioneering period, which is going to prove to be a tough one, so to speak? What's your message to Kenyans, Reverend?
My message to Kenyans is that elections come and go, and Kenya remain. And therefore, let us not take 22 election as a matter of life and death. Election also give Kenyans opportunity to elect leaders of their choice based on the blueprint of what they are talking about. Maybe in another day we can even have a discussion around all these economic models and what people are discussing, because I think none of them has addressed the real question. And the real question for me is, why are Kenyans poor? What is making Kenyans poor? And I don't think there is any one of them who is addressing why are Kenyans poor, so that from the answer of the question is when we are getting a model that is going to answer the question. So probably in future I'll want to delve into this discussion, because we have initiated a conversation, and we must enter into that conversation to ask ourselves that question. But I want to say, Kenyans, let us not be emotional about 2022. Let us approach it soberly. Let us know that our leaders have always made promises that may not turn out to be fulfilled. but we must have leaders anyway. So how I want us to approach 2022 election is let us not allow anybody to put us against any other Kenyans, either because of tribe or either because of social status or inclination to a political party or persuasion. Let us not allow ourselves to be divided by politics that come and go. Let us embrace our unity. Let us be Kenyans for Kenya. And let us embrace a nation that is going to be a nation for our children. Let us know that this nation does not even belong to my age any longer. It belongs to our children, born and unborn. And the decisions we are making today must be decisions that take care about them, not about me, who is almost on my sunset and in the afternoon side of my life. And therefore, we must be careful to look at those whose life is still in the dawn, those whose life is still in the morning, and ensure that whatever we are doing and the decision we are making is for their benefit, and we are going to leave a better place for them, not a depleted area, not a depleted economy, not a looted country, not a country that has no morals, not a country that has no opportunities. Let us make sure that we leave a country that has everything for generations to come. And Kenyans, be watchful. This is a moment where they will come with all manner of promises and all manner of, articulation of language and how to explain it. But at the end of the day, we are looking for good managers. We are looking for people who will make sure that posterity will be taken care of, not by what we can articulate and rhetorically explain, but what we can demonstrate practically. So my message to Kenyans is let us not agree anybody to divide us. Let us wait for the day and we make our decision and make them right.
Absolutely. Reverend Archbishop Jackson Sapit, that is ACK Anglican Church of Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Kenya, KBC Channel 1. Of course, you've heard it from him. He's clarified that issue that happened yesterday. He said that, of course, and indeed, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi sought permission to exit that function yesterday, contrary to what has been happening out there. And that brings us to a close of this particular debate. Reverend, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too, and God bless Kenyans.
Thank you so much. Okay, and that brings us to a close of this particular show. We really appreciate your time. And yes, this is where we close. On behalf of my colleagues, that is Jen, Doreen, Regina, and the entire crew, can I just say thank you so much for joining us since 6 a.m. at this particular point. Let's meet tomorrow. Thank you. Good day.